Well, greetings, teen advisors. Annie, thank you so much for that great introduction. It is always a good habit to give credit where credit is due. So before I get on with my remarks, I would like to recognize the individuals responsible for this outstanding event. My congratulations, of course, to UN Foundation President and CEO Kathy Calvin, CEO Rick Parnell, Executive Director of Global Partnerships and Marketing Jen Kim Fields, and last but certainly not least, Girl Up Director Melissa Hillbrenner. Thank you, Melissa. Almost 2 months ago, as Annie was telling us, we landed in Guatemala to join the UN Foundation's Girl Up team and a group of supporters of the program, which included Annie Gersh and Sophia Stafford. The purpose of this trip was to witness the work a variety of NGOs are carrying out with the assistance of Girl Up resources with girls and adolescents in predominantly Mayan communities. But the next 3 days quickly became so much more than a first-hand look to review programs. Those 3 days turned into a reaffirmation of the unbeatable strength of the human spirit, a celebration of triumph amid the bleakest of conditions, and the realization that while we arrived as bearers of hope, we left as the recipients of the most important lessons. The reality for many girls, adolescents, and young women in Guatemala, particularly for those of indigenous origin, is extremely difficult due to inequality and to oppression. They have remained virtually invisible, and their needs have largely gone unaddressed because of the insufficient statistical data that they have. Little is known, for example, about how they spend their time or their health issues. But here are a few facts that give you an idea of their critical situation. 1 in 10 adolescent girls between 11 and 19 years of age has never received formal education. The national average number of years of schooling for girls and teenagers in areas that have predominantly indigenous population is 2.6 years. Think about this. All of you will attend an institution of learning for at least 16 years of your lives, and most of you longer if you pursue graduate studies. Sexual and gender-based violence is a fact. In 2012 alone, 3,046 girls between the ages of 10 and 14 years gave birth, according to the Guatemalan Health Ministry. These were just the reported cases. 24 girls under 10 years of age gave birth in clinics. Just imagine how many other girls gave birth in their homes. Of course, we don't know how many of these very, very little girls and young adolescents probably even die because of the lack of health service to them. In addition to the lack of access to education and the sexual and physical violence, girls and adolescents are typically married off at a very young age. And once they were wed, any chance to thrive is forever denied. It is easy to see how life in those isolated highland communities, in some cases several hours away from even the most primary health care and legal protection, can seem utterly devoid of promise or possibilities. Over the course of our visit, we met about 80 of the girls and teenagers Girl Up is helping. These initiatives are designed to increase their access to education and health care, as well as to promote an environment free of violence by making them aware of their rights and sparking intergenerational dialogue. One of the programs even focused on basic business skills. All are run by dedicated professionals and all have a proven track record of success. Put it in business terms, they have a positive return on investment. For Vilma, for example, participation in a UN program Girl Up supports was transformational. She not only learned to read and write, but also became aware of her rights as an individual. As Vilma told Melissa Hilbrenner, it is as if a blindfold had been removed. Now she understands the contribution she can make as an active member for her community. This initiative's opened eyes. For Juana, the experience gave her the recognition that she has a voice. As she put it, I want to be the one to decide and not have another person speak for me. Marisela is now capable of sketching out a view of a better future for herself and for her loved ones. My desire, she said, is to become a nurse to help my family. Ruth has been in the Parliament for Childhood and Adolescence, another Girl Up supported program, since she was 12 years old. As an elected youth representative, she makes sure that Guatemalan government remains attentive to the needs of adolescent girls. Her manner radiates poise and self-confidence. She has ambitious goals to change her society and is determined to achieve them. I know you're going to have you have a program tomorrow with your legislators, and I'm sure that you all are going to be just as active and as forward as, for example, Ruth and other girls are in Guatemala. For the first time, these participants and others are able to internalize a belief that they are entitled not only to dream, but also to pursue their dreams. Just like all of you here today, the difference is that you have had systematically and been systematically encouraged along this path by your parents, by relatives, by your teachers, and by your mentors. Up until they joined the programs, these Guatemalan adolescents did not even know this path existed. The women we met are powerful testimonials of the will to overcome, even under the most adverse of circumstances. Winston Churchill said, "Courage is rightly esteemed the first of human qualities, because it is a quality that guarantees all others." As these Guatemalan girls and young women told us their stories, we, their guests, came to understand the true depth of the British statement's insight. They are the embodiment of courage. They persevere in their struggle in the face of what most would consider insurmountable obstacles. For them, there is no turning back. They have been offered the tools to empower themselves and have seized them with determination. They have recognized they have value and will not accept a subservient role any longer. Their schools have packed dirt floors and very basic sanitary infrastructure. A classroom we visited did not even have desks, just rudimentary long benches made out of wood. There are no computers. There are no iPads. Many participants in these programs come to class after spending an estimated 6 hours of their day in domestic chores during the work week. A lot of them also work on the fields alongside their brothers and their parents. And yet they persevere and they yearn for more. More education, more freedom from violence, more access to health care, more opportunity for themselves and for their daughters. How could we help but feel humbled by their experience? If this is not courage, then what is? Because of a random twist of fate, we have access to running hot and cold water, to electricity, to heat in the winter, and to air conditioning in the summer. We travel whenever we choose to, by plane or by car or by train. We own well-appointed homes, maybe even expensive works of art, and overflowing clothes closets. We have attended or plan to attend prestigious schools and universities. When we are sick, we receive the best medical attention available. We are fortunate to enjoy so many gifts, and we should not feel guilty for making use of them. Instead, our position of privilege must become the lever of a lifelong engagement to ensure that other women and young women like you are able to enjoy a measure of wealth, or at the very least, basic comforts in a safe and peaceful environment. That is a clear lesson those courageous women taught us in Guatemala, possibly without realizing they were doing it. They were not only role models for other girls and young women in their communities, they were role models for us as well. We must embrace the fact that we cannot separate ourselves from those women. We are all intrinsically intertwined. They are us, and we are them. There's a Nigerian saying that goes as follows: ignoring is bad. Not wanting to know is worse. Not having hope is inconceivable. But not caring is unforgivable. Let those words of wisdom guide our actions. In my case, very early on in my life, I was able to discern that along with my privilege came responsibility. That if I was going to act, I had to act not only just for myself, but also on behalf of all women, particularly those who are unable to advocate for themselves. I have two jobs. I am the CEO of a company that operates in 19 countries and employs some 3,500 people. That is one of my jobs. My other job, and just as important to me, is my involvement in a variety of causes that seek to build a more just and prosperous world, particularly for the most vulnerable groups, which are women and children. The road to get to this point was arduous. Mexico, my country, is a particularly tough environment for businesswomen. According to the most recent edition of the Gender Gap Report, put out annually by the World Economic Forum, we rank 84 out of 135 countries surveyed in disparity between men and women when it comes to access to economic opportunity. As if these overall conditions were not enough of a challenge, I began my professional career in Corporativo Grupo Imperial, one of the leading companies in the energy sector in Mexico, and my family's business. Energy is essentially a male-dominated field, from the standpoint of employment down to the very philosophies that drive the industry. But I was determined to succeed. I started at 11 years old pumping fuel and checking oil and tire pressure at a gas station, and rose to become the CEO, a position I held for 20 years. Throughout this entire journey, I never stopped reflecting on the status of women in our society, and always engaged in work to advance their professional situation and improve their personal conditions. No matter how demanding my role as CEO became, I never considered giving up my gender-oriented efforts. Both are integral parts of my being I never wanted to ignore. And with acknowledgement came the imperative for action. Now I am also the mother of 2 daughters, and I manage a household. People often ask me, what is the most precious legacy you want to bequeath to your children? That question has a very easy response. I want Valentina and Maria Ignacia to develop a set of core values that will allow them to conduct an exemplary life that they can be proud of. To be women who value themselves so they can value others. To be women who care. At this moment, from this podium, it is my pleasure to be speaking to a group of such women. I mentioned at the beginning of my remarks that I met Annie and Sophia in the trip to Guatemala. My decision to support Girl Up was initially based on a theoretical exercise. I went through the same process I applied to every request for support that comes to my desk. I reviewed the material sent to me. I held meetings and telephone conversations with the Girl Up team. I compared this initiative to others in my philanthropic portfolio, and I evaluated the concept against similar efforts currently out there. Meeting Annie and Sophia moved my perspective on Girl Up to a new level. I was inspired by their passionate commitment and impressed by the clarity with which they articulated their values and expectations in their role up as teen advisors. I was also extremely moved by the genuine kindness and respect with which they related to the Guatemalan girls and teenagers. I went from thinking that Girl Up was an innovative and appealing concept with a lot of potential to witnessing the value generated through its execution. Now, as I stand before so many Girl Up teen advisors, I am delighted to report that I have reached yet a deeper understanding and appreciation of the power of Girl Up. You are a veritable army of extraordinary young women, and I could not be more reconfirmed in my conviction that this campaign will accomplish much thanks to you all. You have made a commitment to justice for all the girls in the world through an initiative that will help us get there. You have accepted the burden of the moral leadership involved in this endeavor. You have recognized the fundamental human values of dignity, choice, and opportunity. You have started a fire, and now you must keep the flame burning. For sure, there will be many distractions along the way, both joyful and sad. Many of you are finishing high school and are getting ready to go to college. This will represent a significant transition in your lives. Many of you will no longer live at your childhood home, and in many cases, many of you not even close to your families. Every day you will face challenges and decisions that you will have to tackle on your own. After college, you will enter a working world that will make even more complex demands on your time, your energy, and your intellect. New responsibilities and new obligations will emerge. You will taste sweet success, but also bitter failure. By this time, some of you may even have entered into a personal relationship and will have a partner with whom you must share and compromise. But in your role of Girl Up Teen Advisor, you started a fire, and you must find a way to keep that flame burning. It is a simple task, but it's not an easy one. As you continue to speak up in your support of worthy causes, be it this one or others, your uncomfortable truths may alienate those who prefer to remain in their ignorance. You will be told that you misbehave, that you are inappropriate. It is important that you know that those comments, which will come from both strangers and friends, are mainly directed at women who demand to be heard, who ask that their voices be respected. Ignore them. Insist in asserting yourselves. In a reality, they will often prefer that you remain silent, that you sit quietly in a dark corner. Our world clamors for leaders like you who take risks and search for solutions to build a society where all, but especially all girls and women, have the right and the chance to flourish and contribute. You are doing it now as a Girl Up Teen Advisor. Let this activism become a state of perpetual rebellion. So here are a few parting pieces of advice. As you scatter after this conference, be mindful that the bond that links you is precious and will serve to bolster you in periods of discouragement. Keep connected. Analyze the meaning of the word decency. It means accommodating oneself to a pre-existing standard. Set your own standard. Be indecent. Small dreams do not bring about substantive change. Dream large. Continue to stretch and redefine your boundaries, those imposed by others and those you impose on yourselves. Stay uncomfortable. Most people squander their entire existence comparing themselves to others. Compete only against yourselves. Don't wait for others to give you permission. Act boldly. Change is inevitable, and absolute security is an illusion. Embrace the art of adapting. Moving with a pack does not allow you to set the destination. Lead. And always, always, always keep the flame burning. Thank you very much for having me here this afternoon with you.